All right, let's dive right into this explainer and explore how the very fundamental architecture of marketing has completely transformed over the last century. You know, if you've ever tried to sell a product, promote a service, or just build a brand from scratch, you've probably relied on a very specific mental model to visualize exactly how a total stranger becomes a loyal customer. But what if I told you that that exact model might actually be holding you back right now? So we are starting with a pretty massive question today. In our hyper-connected, fast-paced digital age, is the century-old marketing funnel finally dead? Consumer behavior has shifted so drastically, and honestly, the strategies that worked a decade ago, let alone a century ago, are starting to show some really serious cracks. So we're going to look at the data and the models to understand exactly how marketing is making a major shift from linear funnels to circular flywheels. Section 1. The marketing funnel, a century-old model. Okay, so take the classic AIDA model. This was created way back in 1898 by an American advertising advocate named Elias St. Elmo Lewis. He designed this to map out a very clear top-down customer journey. It was essentially the blueprint for how an advertisement should work to drive a consumer straight toward a purchase. And it operates exactly like a funnel. A massive number of people enter at the very top, and a much smaller subset actually drops out at the bottom as paying customers. AIDA stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. Think of it kind of like a megaphone. The brand shouts and the consumer passively listens. To put that into perspective, picture a Lego space fashion brand trying to get a new customer. First, they might use a giant, eye-catching billboard just to grab attention. Then, they run a slick TV ad showing the clothes in motion to spark interest. Next up, they bring in a celebrity endorsement to create a really strong emotional desire. And finally, they invite you for a store visit or drop a discount code to prompt that final action. It's a very straightforward, step-by-step path.
Moving right along to Section 2, AIDA in the digital age, adapting the funnel.
You know, as media evolved, marketers didn't just toss the funnel out the window. No, they brilliantly adapted it. Across all sorts of digital channels, they just built new funnels. Think about SEO for a second. You use broad, data-driven keywords to grab top funnel attention. Then you provide deeper, informational content to build desire. And finally, you target high-intent queries, like someone literally searching for a specific price, to capture that action. In paid media, you might kick things off with display ads, move to retargeting the folks who actually clicked, and then hit them with a price promotion. And on social media, it's eye-catching visuals to stop the scroll, influencer storytelling to build desire, and that easy swipe-up link to drive the final action. For a very long time, this was the ultimate digital playbook. Which brings us to Section 3, why the funnel cracks, the modern consumer. But here is where the narrative tension really builds, because the modern consumer journey is, well, messy. It's totally nonlinear. And that means the traditional funnel is fundamentally flawed for today's market. First off, it assumes a one-directional flow, treating us, the consumers, as just passive recipients of marketing messages. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, it literally stops at the bottom. Once the action is taken and the sale is made, boom, the funnel ends. It completely ignores what happens post-purchase, things like customer satisfaction, loyalty, or brand advocacy. And third, it relies on the total myth of brand control. It assumes the brand dictates the journey, but in reality, a consumer might jump from reading a blog review to watching a YouTube unboxing to texting a friend on WhatsApp, completely skipping or looping through the funnel stages entirely on their own terms. Now this changes everything. Research shows that a staggering 92% of consumers trust peer recommendations over traditional advertising. 92%. That proves your customers are no longer just a passive output at the bottom of a funnel. They actually directly influence your next sale. They are literal co-creators of your brand's reputation. Once you realize that the energy of your current customers is the biggest driver for your future acquisitions, that old megaphone model just doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. And that leads us perfectly into Section 4, the circular flywheel, a paradigm shift. So let's contrast the old funnel, which, again, acts like a megaphone shouting a message at passive buyers, against the modern flywheel. The flywheel acts like a spinning wheel that builds organic momentum. Think about it. With a megaphone, the only way to get louder is to just pump more energy and money into shouting at the top. But with a flywheel, you're building a self-sustaining system. The energy you pour into the customer experience doesn't just drop out the bottom into nowhere, it feeds right back into the system, making the whole wheel spin faster and with way less effort over time. Instead of that sad, linear drop-off, the flywheel operates using 3 continuous phases: attract, engage, and delight. You attract by earning attention, not forcing it. You engage by building a real relationship and actively reducing friction in their experience. And the ultimate goal? That delight phase. You want to exceed expectations so well that the customer loops right back around to fuel the attract phase for you. Your delighted customers become active promoters, leaving positive reviews, sharing on social media, and referring their friends.
Let's ground this with a real-world example, right? Look at how a modern Nigerian fintech startup might apply this circular model. Instead of just burning cash on ads, they attract new users with educational blogs that actually solve real financial problems. Once someone is interested, they engage them through responsive, helpful chatbots that make setting up an account feel like a breeze. And finally, they delight their users with totally unexpected perks, like surprise cashback rewards. This turns happy users into vocal promoters. And guess what? Those promoters tell their friends, which effortlessly feeds right back into the attract phase. The customers are quite literally doing the marketing for them.
So I want to leave you with a question to really chew on and spark some curiosity. If we accept this paradigm shift, if your next customer truly comes from your last customer's experience, where can you add more delight right now? Take a hard look at your own business, or even just the brands you interact with every day. Are they just shouting through a funnel, or are they actually spinning a flywheel? Focusing on reducing friction and maximizing delight might just be the absolute most powerful marketing strategy you can deploy today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep looking for those moments of delight.